Thanks, Maria. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the booth here at Mythic Championship VI. My name's Riley Knight, joined by Eduardo Serge-Gallic. We're going to get underway with our second draft of the morning, our second recorded, I should say, draft here. As we said, we've already seen Brad Nelson, the professional Mike Siegrist impersonator. We've seen him get underway with red-green. I'll tell you what, my friends, I was down there on the floor as the draft went on. Very weird draft. Very, very weird draft. One of the weirdest I've ever seen.
I mean, I saw Charming Prince Wheel, a card that yesterday Jessica Estefan took first pick.
Yep.
And I felt correctly. So seeing Charming Prince, they were like, oh, Squire Wheeled. I'm like, that's normal. Why is that Prince still there?
Yeah. There was some super, super weird, a very, very odd table dynamic. We're going to get the chance to explore that from another angle here. Christian Hauck, as Maria mentioned, the German MPL superstar, is our featured drafter number 2. So we're going to head down there and see how the pack shook out for him. And as we mentioned, it's 7-1 already, a very respectable record for the German. Let's see if he can defend it there. You get a look at his face, and let's have a look at pack number 1 here. Ooh, we got a real skookum choocher in there. I saw a bake into a pie. In addition to Archon of Absolution, looks like a couple of other cards are in consideration, but I don't think you can go past this this Prem removal spell here, Eduardo.
Right. Bake into a pie for me is the clear winner, but I could understand Archon of Absolution with certain preferences. I think the next most powerful card, Thunderous Snapper, a little too heavy on the color commitment. So I would see a bake into a pie being picked here, but would understand Archon of Absolution.
Archon of Absolution, one of those cards that really punishes go wide decks, particularly other ones based in white or maybe in green. But bake into a pie, a really, really stellar start to a draft. This is probably the best common in the set. It's definitely the best removal spell at common. Just a clean answer to everything with a fair bit of upside. We're kind of coming out of an era of expecting this effect at sorcery speed and for 5 mana. So bake into a pie definitely on another level. Let's have a look at pack number 2 or pick number 2 here. Burning Yard Trainer, Inspiring Veteran. There's a Charmed Sleep as well. What do you like here, Eduardo?
Kind of nothing.
All right, great. All right, well, that's expert analysis from your friend and mine, Eduardo Serge-Gallic.
No. So technically, Inspiring Veteran would be the most high payoff card if you could ever draft that. But Charmed Sleep is the most solid card. You could also start with Bake into a Pie, Charmed Sleep, and you already got the makings of a control blue-black deck. And I understand this pick because you might have spotted a bunch of blue-black commons that will likely wheel Merfolk Secret Keeper, Forever Young, Didn't Say Please. These are cards that density-wise might allow one of them to come back.
Charmed Sleep the pick here, so already off to the races with some pretty high-tier removal here. Is Hauck. Let's have a look at pack number 3. Garenbrig Paladin dipping into a 3rd color already, but I like this staying open perhaps. There's a Lochthwain Paladin as well. Steel Claw Lance, another off-color card. So the power's there, but in which direction do you go?
For me, the most powerful card in this pack by miles is Steel Claw Lance, but again, as you mentioned, it is a commitment. It does require 2 colors, so Lochthwain Paladin is okay. It's a playable, but it's not nearly as strong. But I understand the pick. Just try to stay solidly in black, probably stay open, give more options. Because if you did take that Lance, you're not playing Charmed Sleep. So it is a sacrifice. But for me, Steel Claw Lance was the most powerful card for sure.
All right, well, the Paladin is the pickup here. Here's another powerful gold card in Improbable Alliance. And again, these packs are just just a bit of a stinker of a pack here. There is an Outmuscle. That's a decent card. Tome Raider as well. I do like to draft them, but nothing that's really standing out here, Eduardo.
For me, actually, this pack smells great. So the problem is, and this is why generally in drafts it's good to stay as open as possible early, and that's why you see the Outmuscle. And you see a lot of top-level drafters take the best card in a pack for that reason. It's too early to commit, so that way you leave your options open. One of the best articles all time, if you want to read it for limited, Ben Stark's Drafting the Hard Way.
So the pick is Outmuscle, and let's have a look at what's in this pack here. We're on to pick number 5 now. Wildwood Tracker, Redcap Raiders under consideration. Malevolent Nobles up in the mix. There's a Prized Griffin. So lots of options across lots of colors.
Yeah, I think with the Bake into a Pie and the Lochthwain Paladin, none of these cards are really that powerful, so I really like the Malevolent Noble there. Guarantee that 2-drop as early as possible. You're more likely to play it than the other options.
So the Noble is pick number 5 here. Let's have a look at the next pack now. Lochthwain Paladin, Sage of the Falls, could go with that Charmed Sleep perhaps, and a Witch's Oven, a colorless option.
Yeah, Sage of the Fall is really powerful when it gets going, but it is a 5-drop, which in this set, like, generally the cheaper card really overperforms. So It's a tough consideration. I like the pick of the Lockwayne Paladin to stay open. Sage of the Falls, in my view, a little more powerful, but then you're locking yourself into black-blue, whereas with Lockwayne Paladin, you're in one color. And and here the Smitten Swordmaster works with the Menace Knight.
All right, another black card available to him is, of course, Forever Young there. Not too exciting, but can get some value off that. Henge Walker fits into any deck rather nicely. So what is Hauck going to go for here? Memory Theft, not too exciting. It's going to be Smitten Swordmaster.
I like it. 2-drop, and in the late game, you can drain your opponent for a few points of damage. Pretty good with the recursion in black as well. For example, Witch's Cottage or Forever Young allows you a few more hits that way.
Move on to our next pick here. Tuinvale Treefolk joins a Giant Opportunity in green. Nothing else too exciting. I've noticed there's been some low-key white cards floating around. I mean, Lonesome Unicorn's not a slam dunk all-star, but it is a decent pick. I bet there's a white draft at the tables having a whale of a time.
I mean, yeah, that pack was a little... There were a few, like, kind of marginal playables, but that Fairy Guide Mother is much more of a signal in my view. That is really late. The Ogre Errant is decent in Black Red Knights, but again, you'll have a lot of 4-drops anyway, so maybe not the option. And I like the Fairy Guide Mother here, specifically because it gives you the largest amount of options.
So dipping into white now, just taking what is arguably the best card in the pack there. Let's have a look at what's up next. The dregs of this pack going around the table, and a Burning Yard Trainer. Trainer is the next pick for the German here.
Yeah, a card that like kind of went down in valuation because while you can pump a Knight in play, the free Trample Haster on turn 5 tends to not be able to punch through.
Cauldron's Gift, Eye Collector in black. There's a Prized Griffin and a Witch's Cottage up for grabs, but goes for the gift. Oh, and look at that handsome gentleman there, just double checking on that. Oh, what a striking forearm he has indeed.
A dapper fellow.
Oh, thank you so much. I mean, well, yes, I couldn't agree more. Crystal Slipper, Giant's Skewer, some late equipment. We're going to pick up that Giant Skewer there. Lash of Thorn, no love for the Lash.
So yeah, Christian Hauck essentially kind of keeping the options open. We know pretty certainly that Christian Hauck will be in black based on those Adamant Paladins and, you know, pretty much all the picks being in black.
But there's a late Prized Griffin in addition to a Beloved Princess. So some white cards going very late there. White seems to be a little underdrafted at the table or overrepresented in the packs. But Hauck has just, again, picked up the dregs here. Firmly in black, Eduardo. But his second color, I don't think he'd be set on either, well, on anything really. Maybe green, but then maybe blue because of the Charmed Sleep. A little bit of a scrappy first pack.
That's true, but it's very common to see scrappy first packs like this at high level because people take the best cards, so you're left with the dregs very quickly. You're going to see late power coming in packs 2 and 3 when people are cemented. For me, the important thing that for Christian Hauck is noticing that a lot of the blue cards that might have come back didn't, so blue is possibly overdrafted at the table. And when you get past Beloved Princess, I mean, the card is irrelevant. It's not powerful, but the thing is, you know the person passing to you wants you to draft white.
Right.
More likely than not. So if you're past a white card in the last pick, even if it's not a playable, it might be a signal, especially at high level, please stay in white, don't bother me in pack 2. So that, to Christian Hauck, might be, you know what, black-white might be the answer. Because if I'm getting past white cards this late, the person next to me in pack 3 won't want these white cards, and I might get some good gifts.
You might get the hookup, exactly right. Okay, well, let's see what's going on in pack number 2 here. The German's going to bust open his second Boosty D, and we'll see what the chop is here. Also, you can notice now in our draft dashboard down in the bottom left, you can see a little picture of the draft beginning to take shape. Now, of course, that includes all the cards that have been drafted, all the stinkers as well as all the slam dunks. So it doesn't give us a completely accurate picture, but it's still very useful to give us an idea of where the draft is headed.
Yeah, and you can already notice a lot of 4-drops, 2 Paladins, a Bacon to a Pie.
So muscle, yep.
Well, depending where we go with things, but yeah, it's a lot of 4-drops. So in my view, probably going to try to stay lower on the curve.
Let's have a look at this pack. Foreboding Fruit in black. I saw an Out Muscle in there as well, and Maraleaf, Pixie, and Bog Naughty. Not a whole lot going on here. This is not the pack that he wanted to open.
For sure. And this is kind of a weird pack because Bog Naughty is a decent black card, but specifically in black-green. So at that point, you're comparing it to Out Muscle. Bog Naughty on itself, a free flyer for 5. if you're just in mono black, you're going to need to combine it with something like Bake Into a Pie or Forbidden Fruit. There's a lot less payoffs in just straight black. So I wouldn't be surprised to see the Outmuscle here just because it is an efficient removal spell. And yeah, if you see Bognaughty as a, black-green multicolor card, then the Outmuscle makes a lot more sense.
I think that's a good way to look at it. Bognaughty in a vacuum, the more powerful card in that pack. But ultimately, ooh, have a look at this one. How about a Savvy Hunter? If we're going to dip into black and green, that's not a bad option. There's also Barrow Witches. Maybe buy back some of those Paladins if we want to stay black. But I don't know. I'm liking the look of a Savvy Hunter here. That card is very powerful.
Yeah, it is. And I think it's notably much more powerful than a Barrow Witches. So unless you wanted to stay really open to maybe drafting white and pack free. I think Savvy Hunter, though, is just way too powerful here to take over Barrow Witches.
And the fact that we've already got 2 copies of Outmuscle and, maybe some other green filler with Tuinval Treefolk. I don't know. I think that you've got to make a decision at some point. Looks like Hauck is going to agree with that assessment. He goes with the Savvy Hunter. So perhaps firming up into black-green here, which I don't mind too much.
Yeah, and Savvy Hunter is very good with the 2 Outmuscles since it's a perfect 1-2 punch on the curve and a Bake Into a Pie.
Ooh, look at that one. Once again, another technically, mono black option with Covetous Urge, but once again, I don't think I'm passing that Bake Into a Pie.
No, I mean, it's by far the best pick.
It's also that has gone past 2 drafters. And so what's going through Hauck's head right now is he's thinking, all right, the 2 people to my left, they're not drafting black, or if they're drafting black, they must have opened some pretty good rares. Because there's no way you're passing a Bake Into a Pie if you can cast it.
That's true. But again, you've kind of cut black pretty heavily. So you've seen black being drafted, like some of the cards not willing, but you can believe that would be a bit later since people aren't picking Forever Young, pick free or something. So I think, yeah, it's fair to say that it's likely that the people to Hauck's left are not in black. Usually, obviously, things can happen.
Garenbrig Paladin and a copy of Scalding Cauldron seem to be what Hauck is looking at. Golden Egg, another colorless option, and I think that Runaway Together is also maybe on his mind. But the Garenbrig Paladin, it hits hard. It gets in there for a lot of damage. Very difficult to deal with sometimes, and I like this pick. I like this pick a lot, especially as we're now firming up into black-green. You've got to commit at some point. Right,
and while black-green tends to be food, there's not that many food payoffs to justify something like the Golden Egg. It's also a knight, interestingly. So for that Smitten Swordmaster, that gives you just that little bit of extra damage push.
Here's the Smitten Swordmaster once again in another memory theft and a whole lot of other stuff going on that Hauck doesn't seem too interested in. A weapon rack and a prized griffin up the back there, and probably the stone cold worst card in this limited format in what is a deafening. I don't even know the full name of the card because I've never cast it in limited.
Yeah,
Deafening Silence, exactly. Yeah.
The Swordmaster is great because when your curve's high, it allows you to buy the time to get there. Wow.
All right.
Wow.
Here's a Witch's Vengeance, which again is a very, very clear signal that black is heavily, heavily underdrafted to Hauck's left. We'd be very happy to see that. Now, look, you're not, you're not looking to sit there and get your 4 for 1 or whatever. Sometimes it is just a -3/-3, and you'll be happy with that. But sometimes you can get them.
Yeah, but it's a
great removal spell, even as a target creature gets -3/-3.
Yeah, it can be a sorcery for that, and sometimes it's Plague Win. It just depends what happens in front of you.
Lost Legion here, another decent black pickup. Witch's Cottage is another good card to include in your black decks. But I like the 2/3 here. I think it's going to be it's going to fill not quite a hole in the curve, but we've noticed already a lot of 4 drops. Want to pick up some earlier game, and a 2/3 that scries to is a pretty good rate.
Yeah, I like it here, especially if you're heavy black. Allows you to make sure to scry to that 4th land.
What is going on with that horse's mane, though? I mean, did it not go to the horse barber before it died, or do horse ghost manes grow after death? I'm not a horse ghost expert. We may have to consult with the McElroy brothers here. But in the meantime, Lochthwain Paladin is the pickup. That's again another 4-drop. But this one, I mean, in a heavy black deck like this, Eduardo, it's almost always coming down as a 4 power creature.
Yeah, for sure. And Forbidden Fruit is kind of okay. That's a late Maraleaf Pixie. It's a card that you see commonly late because it is a true multicolor card. You would almost never splash for it. I'd say here, Hauck's deck is looking reasonable, but look at the number of 4-drops in that deck.
But also look at the hookup he's got in this pack when it comes to black cards. Clearly, black is flowing freely from the left, and he's going to take advantage of that and make hay while the sun shines. So tiny to pick up here. No, not really any other good options. But one thing I want to point out, Eduardo, we have seen gold cards, good gold cards, circle the table. That Maraleaf Pixie went undrafted, and it's not going to be. I'll tell you this, not going to be the last gold card we see wheeling as well. It's quite remarkable what happened at this table. Very, very weird draft dynamic indeed. There's an opt now, so some blue cards, but again, I think Hauck's settled into green-black pretty comfortably here.
Yeah, I mean, he's just taking away options from the other people at the table. You don't want to face So Tiny. In the blue control decks, So Tiny tends to be as close, pretty similar to another card that I've played before called Swords to Plowshares in the right deck. So it's a very conditional card, but in the right deck, it's powerful. So I really like taking it away from the table when you don't have any other options.
Couple of Dwarven Mines to round out pack number 3, and as the players get a chance to review their picks, we can get have a chance to chat about the direction we think Hauck has gone with this deck, and maybe a bit of an assessment from you, Eduardo, as to where you think he's at. This is not the best draft deck I've ever seen.
It's creatures and removal. If Hauck can get some, probably like one more, like I'd say, powerhouse card, and maybe another removal spell, and especially what's going to make Christian Hauck's deck kind of almost playable is going to be a cheap end of the curve. You're going to need those 2-drops, you're going to need those 3-drops, because without those, Hauck is going to be in trouble. You've got the top end sorted, but like a 4-3 Menace is much better when you're going 2-3-4. When it's your first play, it's not going to deal enough pressure, and it doesn't make for a very good blocker.
But after having sort of committed to these colors here, Hauck now is going to be hoping for... I mean,
look at the curve. Free 2-drops, 2 free drops.
Yeah.
Like, you can tell already what Christian Hauck is thinking here.
He's thinking he needs to fill those holes. He needs to make sure that he's not going to be overrun in the early game. This isn't the most aggressive draft format. It's no gate crash, but... by the same token, you can't afford to come out of the gates too slowly, lest you get overrun here by some of the more aggressive starts capable in this format. Well, we'll see how things go in pack number 3 for the German MPL superstar. Again, plenty of beef at the top end, but he will be looking for some early plays, whether it's just defensible 2-drops, whether it's a little bit more removal or what have you. But I would say staying the course here, black-green, is going to be where he wants to be.
Yeah, I think he also probably felt that the curious pairs that we saw might have come back, and them not coming back in the box, is kind of a worrying sign. Because it means that somebody else is prioritizing those cards. So if they don't get open in the last pack, it's more because it's an early play, not so much because it's that powerful.
No, it's not like an all-star in his deck or anything. It's just the sort of card that he might be interested in just to fill out that 2-drop slot.
Yeah, when the lower the number of your 2-drops are, the more you're going to play like Jousting Dummy. Like Jousting Dummy, totally fun in this deck.
Well, there's a Jousting Dummy, and here's a Sir
I think though
Conrad.
I have a better pick. Sir Conrad. Yeah, I mean, Outlaws Merryman is obviously like
it's
a total stone cold bomb.
Absolute busted mythic, and you can see how has even brought it to the front of the pack here. But I mean, Sir Conrad also a very powerful uncommon.
Yeah, there's something we say mythic uncommons. So uncommons that are so kind of game warping that
so powerful.
Yeah, that you start calling them mythic uncommons because they define gameplay by themselves. Sir Conrad, in my view, is Throne of Eldraine's mythic uncommon. It really defines the board state in a way that no other card does.
Yes, makes attacking and blocking very difficult for the opponent with those death triggers, and can also just close out a game through something like a Revenge of Ravens, or even maybe sometimes beating a mill deck very handily. And as a result, very good, very high on this pick, and a great pickup in pack number 3 here. Even if he has to pass that Outlaws Merriment, which any Boros mage would snap up in a heartbeat. Now, not too much going on here. Giant Killer, the rare that was passed. I like the look of that Searing Barrage in a red deck here. But Wicked Guardian and Tempting Witch, the only real options. He's not playing an Edgewall Innkeeper deck, so that powerful green uncommon's not going to do it for him here. Bit of a disappointment in pick 2 of pack 3.
Yeah, the fact that I think there's like one Tree Folk, that's it. I hate to say it, Tempting Witch might be the pick. You can't really splash Giant Killer without a permanent source because, again, you want to use the tap ability and cast it. And this seems horrible, but you know what? When you're lacking early drops, this is what happens.
But even then, I mean, I don't think Hauck's like, oh, great, now I've solved all my curve problems. He's still playing a 3-mana 1/3, so this is an unfortunate. He would definitely been hoping for something a little more powerful.
Well, Yorvo's pretty powerful, but unfortunately also extremely hard to cast in a deck with a bunch of Lockwayne Paladins.
Yes. Now let's talk about this, because obviously Yorvo, no shortage on power when it comes to this this big bad thumper, but it's not a 3-drop in this deck. It's not a 3-drop in the deck that Hauck is drafting. It's, what, a 6-7 drop maybe?
That's
I mean,
problem,
getting to 3 forest is going to be difficult.
That's the problem I have. I'd be fine playing Yarvo on, say, turn 5, sometimes even turn 6, but I think in his deck it's turn 7+.
And this is why we see instead an early creature, Gingerbrute. Just get in there for some early damage, maybe chump something on the way out. And I think a disciplined pick from Hauck there, not taking a card that I think it was a bit of a trap card. Taking the Yorvo, it seems fine in a green-black deck, but it's not. It would be a bit of a liability.
Yeah, I was a little surprised at taking Gingerbrute or something like Justin Knight, actually, because I just prefer the straight-up more, because Hauck will have to tap out a lot, so Gingerbrute's abilities are much harder to activate. So I think Justin Knight was maybe a little better there, especially with the Smitten Swordmasters. As for the pick here, I mean, why not take another Outmuscle, hope for a few more solid free drops, and just go that way? That way, like, Hawk's removal is great. You got free Outmuscles, 2 Bake into a Pie, and you got Witch's Vengeance, which varies between a Sorcery -3/3 and a Plate Wind.
So there's a lot of interactive options here for Hauck, and he's picked up another one with that 3rd copy of Outmuscle.
Yeah, and you got Smitten Swordmaster, for me, clearly the pick. I mean, that's why, again, I talked about Justin Dummy. Justin Dummy is kind of like Golden Egg. It's a card that looks innocent, but the fact that it's a knight and an artifact fills so many holes. And with free Smitten Swordmasters, it would have dealt a lot of I mean, it's just it doesn't seem like much. You know, it's you attack for 1 more damage at some point. You get to trade with a free toughness creature. But it does matter.
Yeah, it fills a role. Fills a role for sure, but I like this Smitten Swordmaster. This is the sort of early game he wants. A creature that can brawl, but will buffer his life total if he's on defense. And no, a good pickup here. Another Malevolent Noble as a 2-drop is a decent option. Another Gingerbrute as well. Let's see if the cookie crumbles that way.
I like the Noble here just because it's the solid 2-drop. I know Gingerbrute has gone up, but there's not that much synergy in the deck for it. Funnily enough, that Worthy Knight, I remember the Inspiring Veteran at the start, and then you have the Outlaw's Merriment. If somebody went into red-white, that would have been that would have been a deck.
Well, I mean, we've seen a lot of powerful white cards go late. There was a Worthy Knight that was just shipped earlier, and now
look at this pack: Fairy Guide Mother, Charming Prince.
Yeah, so many white cards. There are 5 white cards in there, and 3 of them are pretty decent as well. So this is, again, as I say, a very weird draft. You've got players scrapping for picks across all colours, but white by the look of things. And as I say, there's going to be a white draft. This table's going to have an absolute howler of a deck here. So Hauck picks up a copy of Foreboding Fruit. That's his 2nd copy of that card.
Probably a sideboard card in a more grindy matchup. Also, Hauck does need to hit that 4th land in many situations, so drawing 2 is going to be important just to hit the land drops.
Looks like a Witch's Cottage is the pick here, and I like that. Look, we've already, probably filled out a curve with enough playables, even if the curve isn't, exactly how you draw it up, whatever. But there are going to be a lot of swamps, and so just a bit of free value from a Witch's Cottage there. And we're going to just lean in to make sure. Oh, great pick, Hauck. Yep, very, very good indeed. As we move on to our next one here. But no, I think that's good. Again, just sort of, improving his mana base. And look at that. There are no Boros drafters at the table. There are no Boros drafters at this table. Can you believe it? Outlaw's Merriment, one of the best cards in the set for sure, and it is wheeling. Hauck is taking Fell the Pheasant instead.
There are 8 disappointed people at one table.
The thing is, like, what did the white drafter take over it? Just take that and splash it if you can. It's incredible to see that that's gone. I mean, again, super weird draft dynamic this time around. We see Hauck rounding out his pick. There's a Prophet of the Peak, but a super weird texture to this draft.
Yeah, and the reason you might see it wheel, even if you're a white drafter, splashing in white specifically is really difficult. I mean, we see another Fireborn Knight.
Yeah.
But yeah, splashing in white is difficult because white tends to be aggressive, and the decks that want to splash typically are green-based or very controlling, where you have the time. When you're being aggressive, that land that doesn't allow you to cast a card is a problem.
Roving Keep, in addition to a couple more white cards. Look at that. White rares going round and round. I tell you what, if you had a time machine here, you would sit down and you would just start slamming those white cards into play, into your picks. Don't even worry about it. Inquisitive Puppet, Lash of Thorns, the last pickups here for Hauck. He takes the Lash, and let's have a look at that last card. Doesn't seem too excited about it. It is a Fortified Provision. So I would say a decent enough deck, a middling deck. Like, it's certainly not one that you're writing home about, but you know, it's definitely no train wreck. He's done a decent job of pulling together a draft deck from a very weird table that I think he's going to acquit himself well with.
Yeah, for my perspective, mid-lean is the right way to put it. It's middle of the curve. You got removal, you got solid creatures, you don't have anything to write home about.
Yeah.
I'm sure Christian Hauck, probably not what you'd want to sit down and draft, but you're reassured because Outlaw's Merriment wheeled. So that means that powerhouse that he opened hasn't been taken. However, you know there's a giant killer floating around, and what's your deck full of? A bunch of 4-power creatures.
4-power creatures. I mean, you're gonna have to be careful of that one for sure. Anyway, it was quite an odd draft. A couple of important lessons to be taken away from that one. But that's all she wrote today when it came to our Throne of Eldraine drafts. We're going to take a quick break. On the other side of it, of course, it's round number 9 of Mythic Championship 6. So stay with us, my friends. The draft round's coming up after this.